Well, it's my extreme pleasure to introduce, for the first time on our set, Superintendent Laurence Spring, better known as Larry Spring. I understand you're a pretty casual kind of guy,
Absolutely.
And we've heard good things about you. Tell me, well, where'd you come from first?
Before this, I was superintendent at the Sch'dy City School District.
Okay, good.
I was there about 6 years, and before that, in and around some school districts.
So you brought a lot of
Rochester.
experience with you to our community, and we're so happy that you're here. Tell us what your vision is, or how do you see things? Now, you were in Cortland, now you're here, and of course, I think this school district might be bigger.
A little bit bigger, yeah.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
I think 12,000 students?
We're just about 10,000 kids in
okay.
Schenectady, so a little over 3 times the size of
that's
Cortland.
a lot, yeah.
But similar challenges in terms of
and you're up to
diversity
the challenge,
and
right?
poverty, and I'm absolutely up to the challenge.
Good.
So some of the things that I'm passionate about are some of the things that we have to wrestle with, and number one is raising student achievement, and right with that is ensuring that things like a student's race, their economic background, or their disability are not predictors of their achievement, and so that whole equity issue.
It has to equal.
Yeah.
I know in the past when other superintendents have been on the show, they've said, well, one of the challenges that we face is that we have such diversity in our schools. Did you have the same diversity in Cortland?
We had in Cortland a significant amount of economic diversity.
Okay.
So not the same kind of racial or cultural diversity that we have here.
And they speak many languages in your school.
They do. Now the nice thing about that is that affords us some tremendous strengths.
Absolutely.
Our kids who learn and spend all of their lives growing up with kids from different backgrounds, different sets of values and different beliefs, grow up very strong and well-rounded, and they are very successful.
More global.
Out in the world. Yeah.
So because they've met people. It's not a name.
Right.
It's or a race or a culture. It's like they've met them.
Yeah.
They met a Chinese person. They've met someone from Afghanistan. They've met. Now, what do you see as probably the focus? First thing you want to really focus on.
Well, really,
is that too much of a question?
No. It's hard to focus on one thing. It's really the challenge of the superintendency is make sure that we're working on a few number of things. If everything is important, nothing is important. So what are the really important things? And I think probably, the most important output for us is graduation. And how do we make sure that everybody within the entire organization is working towards ensuring that every kid gets a diploma? And then, the most important thing, I think, in terms of making that happen is literacy. And we can find it every single grade level. We know we've got, issues with reading, and how do we help kids get to where they need to be.
It's amazing that some homes don't have any books or magazines. Now, I know we've gone to the digital, but this is before the digital.
Yeah.
They just don't read.
Yep, and we know we've got, some issues in the city, in society, in homes, and things like that we have to wrestle with. It certainly makes, what we wrestle with for literacy very different than what some other school districts would have to wrestle with.
Yeah.
But there are ways to do it. There are other places in the world that have been successful with it. We're confident that we can tackle that and get at it. But really, it's about how do we make sure that when kids enter school, they're ready to learn. How do we make sure that they're learning to read? And for the kids that are already in school, how do we remediate with some intensity and catch them up to where they need to be and fill in those gaps in their literacy?
Yeah, I know that many of the criticisms are the students that are going into college have to take remedial courses. That should have been handled, not just your school, I'm not saying that, but it should have been handled in the high school. You shouldn't be going to college if you can't read or do simple math.
Yeah, and part of that is we have to have much stronger communication with our post-secondary institutions. They have tests that they use to determine which kids need remedial coursework, and sometimes kids who get college credit in our schools have to take remedial coursework. And that just doesn't seem to jibe with me. Well, you've awarded them credit, but then you're saying they need remediation.
You're kind of getting me a little bit like, what?
Right. We need to communicate better.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So we need to have better communication around, what is it that you expect? What does a kid need to know and be able to do in order to not need a remedial course? And let's make sure that we're folding that into those other those college courses that they're taking in our schools.
And it's expensive to take a remedial course at college You're paying college money
Yep.
for remedial
for
when
no
you
credit.
could have been taking, English 101 or, Social Studies 1 or
Exactly.
whatever courses they're looking at there.
Now what we want to do and hope to do is expand the number of courses that kids can take within our high school. And so one of the things that I was able to do at Cortland is grow that program in partnership with the community college there to the degree where kids were actually graduating high school having already completed all the requirements for an associate's degree. And so as soon as they got their high school diploma, they turned around
their 2-year
and they received their associate's degree. And so kids,
isn't that great?
it is. It's
Think
amazing.
about the money that you are saving people.
So one of those parents actually said to me, their child went into RIT as a junior.
Okay, a wonderful school, Rochester.
As a junior, and the tuition at RIT is not insubstantial.
So they're graduating at 20, where everybody else is graduating at 21 or 22.
And they
right?
thanked me profusely for saving them in the neighborhood of $100,000 in tuition.
And what are our schools for but to try and educate? My question, how do you keep kids motivated? Because there are so many outside pulls.
Yeah. Well, motivation is, it's related to a lot of different things. And when you think about those outside pulls, it's, how do we structure education in such a way that makes kids interested? How do we answer the so what question for kids?
Why do I need to know that?
Yeah.
I don't need to know what Napoleon did.
And what's funny is that colleges are wrestling with this same question also.
Yeah.
And let's make sure we're asking kids to do things that looks like work that people do out in the real world. We can't ask them to do school work for school's sake, but who out in the real world does this kind of work? Who values this kind of product that you're asking
the whole
me to
STEM
make?
thing where you're getting science, technology, engineering.
But the other piece is making sure that kids have some reasonable chance of success and some choice, and that they know exactly what it is that they need to do. And so we find that motivation drops off pretty quickly if we ask a person to do something that they don't feel like they're really capable of doing. And so their motivation drops down. So part of it is let's make sure we're scaffolding.
The challenge is too great for them in their own mind. Maybe it isn't, but it is in their mind.
Right.
BOCES. I think BOCES is probably as good as the first time they made sliced bread. I mean, this is a great program to get kids who maybe won't have the money to go to college, or maybe for whatever reason, you get a job when you're done with BOCES. Of course.
It could mean a 2-year school, it could mean a technical school, lots of additional training, but also that they've got a choice to start a career.
I went to a BOCES graduation, and I was, because my grandson went through BOCES, and took welding. So there are, I was amazed at the avenues that these kids have to take courses during high school that will prepare them for a job.
Yep, and there's and it's not done at the expense of higher level academic coursework. Right. You're still taking the courses to get a Regents diploma.
And they can still go to college afterwards.
You're still getting your Regents diploma. You're still doing these other things, but you're learning a trade or a skill. Those courses at BOCES, those programs are often calibrated and certified at a national level, so that employers know that this is a student, a graduate who has real skills. They've been certified, through an external agency, that they've got those skills, that knowledge, to be able to really do that job. Whether it's welding, some of the other trades, or auto mechanics.
So many of them. I was just amazed at what they taught. I was like in awe. We've been speaking with Superintendent Laurence Spring, and we could probably go on for another half hour, and perhaps we will over the next season. And I hope that you'll come back again. Talk about maybe some of the your fine arts department, your career center, your culinary. I mean, you have it all, and I
You've got fabulous stuff.
So impressed by what you do, and I want to congratulate you for coming here and being part of our community.
Oh, thanks so much. I'm really excited about it.
Too.